All right. Well, welcome back to the Wyoming Five Star Podcast. We've got two special guests here with us today, Aleta Moss and Craig Ferris, the charges of the Wyoming Chiefs and Lady Chiefs. And yeah, we've been really excited to get this one on camera, and it's basketball season if we're talking with you guys, and one of the most successful programs in the state, especially here in Fremont County. And so welcome, you guys.
Hey, thanks for having us. We appreciate you coming out on this Sunday and talking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hop right in. We got some games under our belt this weekend, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. But Aleta, we just kind of breaking some news here. You just crossed the 700 win mark, which is
I don't know.
which is pretty crazy. You and Craig have combined for 12 state championships. Craig 7 and Aleta 5, and I think what kind of stands out to me, and we've talked about this in the past, is in 42 years, Craig, there's been two coaches for the Wyoming Indian Chiefs, Alfred Redman and yourself. And Aleta, in 37 years, there's been one coach, and that's you. Just that in and of itself, I think in this day and age where, and you guys know the pressures and probably even more magnified, but I would have just asked, what fuels your passion still here this long? I think you started in 2006, Craig, and what keeps you going?
Well, when I first started coaching, I told myself I'd do it 5 years and see where we're at after that. So I think I'm on year 21 right now, and you spend so much time with these kids in the gym during the season on those long away trips in Wyoming. There's no 30. Well, we got one game up at Pavilion that's like 20 minutes away, but everything else is 2 or 3 hours long. So you spend a lot of time with these kids, get to know them, they get to know you, and you just get attached to your seniors. And then when they leave, then you got a new group of freshmen that come in that you get attached to too, and it's just hard to leave. They give so much energy and effort and passion to you at practice and in games and stuff. You create this bond that is hard to get away from, especially when you love the game and you really love working with kids.
Yeah, and for me it's been, I kind of have a little bit different story based on, my uncle, Alfred Redman was my uncle, and when I started coaching, I tried to, he'd visit with me and talk to me and try to design my program kind of similar to his. And one of my main goals was to build a girls program like he did. I mean, he had a strong boys program, and I'm like, I want that for my girls. I mean, for our girls here on the reservation, and that was one of my main goals. And now, I'm like him. It's like you don't realize the years when you're having so much fun because you like the road trips, and when you take kids to the team camps in the summers and all the stories you have, and it's just a real good. You want to build that relationship with your players, and it's really been fun, and you'd like to see. My main emphasis is to provide opportunities for our young ladies. I mean, and I'm always referring back to we need. If you look at the statistics here on the reservation, I mean, there's a lot of young ladies that are, the main household for their. I mean, a lot of his boys are raised by just their grandparents, their grandmother, and so we have strong women that I want them to be, because that's something that I want for them, and I want them to have the opportunity to go to college and have a good life. A lot of our girls have played college, but I think I have maybe 3 that are still playing right now. This is their 5th year. Oh, they got that extra year, so. And, we've had many others, and I just want them to have that opportunity to go out there and see what's out there before, and always come back and always remember who you are. I was born in a traditional home, and it's like, no matter where you are, you always remember home.
Would you both just expand a little bit on Alfred and Coach Redman's, influence on both of you? Craig, I think you played for him, and obviously a relative, and yeah, I mean he started this all, and I think deserves so much credit for all of it. Would you just expand upon just what he means to you guys and his influence on Wyoming Indian basketball and the community at large?
Yeah. My dad introduced me to the game. Gordon Highwalker, he's the one who introduced me to the game, got me into it, got me going. But Alfred's the one who helped me fall in love with it. The style of play he played, everything was fast paced. He allowed us as players to make decisions on the court for ourselves, put us in situations where we were learning as we going. And he was a big, everybody learn on the court. Did a lot of conditioning with him. I don't know how many times we ran back and forth and bleacher to bleacher to get us ready for it. But, I remember reading something where he wanted to bring that res style of basketball to the high school game, and it won him a lot of games, got him a lot of state championships, and that was just something that really stuck with me. I remember watching, Myron Chavez and his earlier teams at the Alfred Redman Gymnasium down in Ethity, and that was my big influence, because I know back in the day, my dad he played for the Lander Tigers, and everybody thought that's where me and my brothers were going to go because that's where my dad went. But just the atmosphere and the energy and from the fans and everything that Alfred built here beforehand just drew me to Wyoming Indian, and that's who I wanted to play for. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be a chief, like all the legends from the past. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for me, it would be, just, him being my uncle. He liked to joke a lot, so we had a lot of fun. But like I said, I really want that. I wanted all the hype that the boys were receiving for playing basketball. I wanted that for the girls. I said, someday we'll be getting a state championship, and it was a struggle at times,
Yeah, talk about that, because I looked at your record, and it took you 15 years before you won your first one. So there obviously was a lot of groundwork that had to be laid. And what did that process look like? It
was frustrating at times, just trying to build a program where you're gonna condition, you're gonna work hard. I mean, it's you're gonna follow rules, and you're going to do things that are going to maybe you've never done before, but we need that in order to build a program. I mean, you've got to put everything aside, and a lot of times we're like, well, you have to set priorities, and you have to understand that if you're going to work hard, you have to work hard in the classroom, you have to work hard here. My main issue it was like I had a lot of girls in the beginning that would maybe, and really talented girls, and then ended up not finishing due to maybe getting pregnant, and it wasn't a really big statistic like some people think it might be, and it was like maybe one or two key players that you really needed, and setting boundaries and rules that you had to follow. I mean, even right now, I still follow those same rules, just like it's tough on travel trips. I mean, you have to sit in the hallway. We take all their devices, their phones. I'm like, no,
distractions.
You're not going to be on the phone all night, and you're representing our community, and you're going to follow them rules. You're going to pass that drug test. You're going to, be academically eligible, and And it was tough in the beginning, and you just have to go through each step. And we've been there so many times. I mean, we try to make sure we come back with some hardware, and that's the ultimate goal, is to make it to state. But lately we were talking about, somebody asked me, well, you've had another successful season. That was like last year. And I said, well, when you think about it, you don't have a successful season at Wyoming unless you win a state title.
Yeah. But one of the things too that I've learned from Aleta is the off-season work. She does a really good job with her player teams in the off-season with open gyms and getting them to tournaments and getting them playing time in the off-season. That's one of the things I'm learning on how, because that takes a lot of fundraising, takes a lot of planning, takes a lot of logistics and everything. And that's one of the things I'm learning from Aleta. And I think that's what's really helped build her program too, and helping me with my program is the off-season stuff. Because everybody sees what you're doing in the regular season, and that's all team stuff. Your team defenses, team offenses, team camaraderie and all that stuff. But where kids are getting better at is in the off season, and I think Aleta does a really good job in the past. Since she's finally got that first state championship, is developing her girls and getting her girls that playing time in the off season and stuff.
Well, and you guys have the benefit of, and this would be a great opportunity to talk about this now, is, your kids are playing basketball all the time, all year round. Yeah. If they're not doing cross country or, maybe other sports, they're playing basketball, and you see the tournaments all around the state and the West, and they're traveling to Kansas, and that's got to be a tremendous benefit. But you guys kind of alluded to just Alfred's style of play, and I think people would, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fast, it's in your face, it's high tempo, and and now everybody's trying to play that way. But 25, 40 years ago, he was doing that. Yeah. Where would you say that, what would you chalk that up to as far as, maybe where that influence came for him, and maybe even just the reservation style of basketball of just getting up and down. Where are some of those foundational parts and pieces? Where were the influences coming from?
I think just like you said, our kids start so early. I mentioned to Craig last week, and I'm like, Craig, this is our first weekend of before the games, and guess where I was all weekend? Yeah. I have grandbabies now. I'm pretty old, and so my grandbabies played in. One of my granddaughters played in the youth tournament at Ferris, and we were running back and forth and then we had a tiny tot and a teeny tot tournament. We start really, and they have they drop little baskets, and so and then Sunday I spent 8 hours in the gym watching my grandkids play. And they went back. They lost their first game, and so they had to come all the way around the bracket. And I told him, I'm like, why did I do that?
She does it because she loves it.
Where would you rather be?
Yeah, right. I think that just to kind of add on to what Aleta said, yeah, that term, we start them young. They start them really young here. Like, we got little kids who just now learning to walk, playing out here. They're walking around with a basketball in their hands. So, our kids really start at a young age playing and stuff. And I think that's where Alfred his style came from. They allow the kids to get up and down the floor, learn little basics for at the beginning in these tournaments. And there's a lot of kids that mostly family teams. Like I said, a lot of the families get their little grandbabies and stuff together and get a team in, and that's where they start. And I think that's where it started for Alfred, because I know, like I said, I alluded to my dad introducing me to the sport. Back when I was elementary school age, junior high age, we were going to Idaho, we were going to Montana, playing in a lot of independent tournaments around here. And so every weekend while my dad was in the gym playing in his tournament, we were outside hooping it up with whoever the kids were, wherever we were at. And I think that's where Alfred got his style and his motivation and his direction with play. He brought that intensity, that style of game into the high school.
Yeah, I've got to imagine. The game, if you are more skilled, you want more possessions, and if you're more skilled, you're able to play faster, and so I think that's kind of what you're alluding to is, if you're starting that young and you're able to do all of those things, it's way more fun to play fast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it really helps out. Like I said, like I told you before the interview, I'm really reaping the benefits of having a lot of guys that won a state championship in cross country last year. They got second place this year, using those athletic abilities and talents. And then we have some really good, I know our football team's not really big as most teams, but we've had some athletes out there that have to play both sides of the ball, running quarterback on offense and linebacker on defense. So these kids out here are just talented, and they're pure athletes, and they make us look really good as coaches.
Yeah.
Well, without, sharing your secret sauce, is there like a template that you use to kind of get ready for the season, as you're building up to it? You kind of alluded to a lot of sprints and getting up and down and utilizing the trash cans here in the gym. But, what does it look like in those first 2.5 weeks to kind of get ready for the season and is there similarities amongst you two? I mean, that is probably influenced from Alfred and what the Chiefs have done for so long.
I think that's one of the biggest things I learned from Alfred is the conditioning, because a lot of, games played in 4 quarters. Alfred was always big about having the energy in that fourth quarter, making sure his team was in shape enough that when we did get to that fourth quarter after playing so fast and so hard, and Alfred was the kind of guy that'll press the whole game just to make sure the tempo does stay where he wants it to be. And a lot of teams, his focus was always conditioning, making sure that his teams were ready when that fourth quarter came, and they had the lungs and the legs to finish off strong each game. So that's one of the biggest things I picked up from him, and that's probably one of my trade secrets is we condition a lot early. It tapers off as we go through in the season, because you kind of want to. There's getting that conference season, you want to save some legs and stuff. But early on, I hit, and I know Aleta does too, we hit the conditioning really hard at the beginning of the year so that we build up that leg strength, that lung strength, and our kids are ready by the time we hit conference in that regional tournament.
Yeah. And then, like I learned it from Alfred too, just that conditioning that was really important. If you're going to press the whole game, a lot of people used to tease me when I did have, and you have to develop your when you come into season, you have to look at your personnel who is able to press the whole game. And as of lately, I haven't had much. I had a few cross country girls that came out, and a lot of them go over to indoor track sometimes, but. Just getting that first week is tough. I mean, a lot of, we start with like 45, and then we end up, and some people decide this is not for them.
Well, and you throw that number out there, and I'm sure, coaches that are going to be watching this will be shocked by that. We're not, because we know, your program is upwards, it's sometimes into the 60s as far as kids. I mean, which is crazy to think, because your student population is how much?
I think we're right around 175 kids this year.
So nearly every boy,
yeah.
And sometimes every girl, nearly, is coming out to play basketball, and I mean that's
one of the
incredible.
biggest questions I get from all other coaches. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you practice with that? And I think we've developed a system. We really utilize our assistant coaches.
Yeah.
And they really do a good job of stepping up and helping up with that player development. But I know I complain about it a lot. Oh, we got this many kids. But after thinking about it for a while, I'm kind of actually proud of it, because, we've developed programs that kids want to be a part of. And like that first 3 days of practice we have before Christmas break, it's always like our conditioning and skill level.
It's mass chaos, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's trying to, we do it to try to scare some kids off, but that next Monday they're right there again, ready for more. So, it's like, okay, here we go. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to figure it out. We try to get as many games as we can for these kids.
Yeah. And I got to imagine, just like you, wanting to be a chief, probably from the time you were little, that is so, to have that opportunity for these kids is something that probably is obviously encouraged at home, and something that all kids strive for, and it's fantastic because it's a wonderful positive outlet for them. Yeah. It keeps them in shape, and obviously keeps your programs healthy, because on the flip side, you could have, not very many kids, and you're scratching your head the other way. So I think it's probably a good problem to have.
Yeah.
It is, honestly. And I wish we can get those numbers in the summer when they really need that player development, but we work with what we got. So.
Yeah. And it really helps with our our middle school and our youth programs. You know, they both won their championship this year. Our youth girls and our youth middle school girls, and so the boys program starts here this week.
Yeah, they start. I think their first week of practice is this week, and then they kind of get the Christmas break off. But yeah, that's really big. Like I said, we started kids young, and they're dealing with numbers too. And I think our youth 5th and 6th grade teams had right around 30 kids out for basketball this year. Our junior high had right around 20, I think it was.
Yeah.
And those feeder programs just, like I said, make our numbers grow and grow. And the success we've had in the last few years, kids want to be a part of it. And you can't blame them. Like, if I take it as a badge of honor, like these kids want to be a part of something good, and that means I'm doing something good. So,
absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. Fremont County, especially, but especially on the reservation, basketball is king, as I frame it, and oftentimes, whether good or bad, players are put on a pedestal at a very young age. And what are some things that you guys do to be intentional about helping them with that process and, teaching them the skills that they need to handle some of that, whether good or bad? Because like you said, Aleta, from the very beginning, the expectation is Casper on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And if that doesn't happen, then, that's hard for 14 to 18-year-old kids.
Yeah. I think you try to bring in their culture. You're representing not only just yourselves, but a whole community, and you have to be that person that people are going to look up to you. And we take our kids up to the elementary and the middle school before we go to state tournament, and they're just crazy about our high school.
Yeah, we
teams.
have some pretty epic state send-offs, that's for sure.
Well, our youth program now just entered the Wind River League and, play all the schools on the reservation. And they love coming out and playing a 5th grade game, and there's 200 people in the stands.
Yeah.
That's people don't understand that excitement.
Yeah, just that experience. Like, we always have to tell some of our newer kids going into regionals, like, because, you'll see a Lady Chiefs in a Chiefs game at the regional tournament. The gym is just packed. And then the game after that, you look on an FHS program, there's like 10 people in the stands. We have to prepare our kids for, like, hey, it's going to be loud, focus on us. Prepare them for that. And then just that following, it builds a sense of pride and energy in our kids that they want to be a part of. So,
well, and to have, ambassadors and mentors like you two, to navigate. I mean, you guys lived it. You've lived it for a really long time as coaches, so, just talk maybe about that experience and helping those kids. This is a very short time in your life. It's 4 years, and then something else happens. Life, and preparing them for that this is not it. That's got to be a challenge at times, and probably ongoing all of the time. But how are you intentional about building some of those skills?
One of the things that I like to focus on and teach the kids is we always talk about adversity, and we always talk about mistakes, because there's a negative stigma on mistakes. Like, if you think about basketball in the purest, simplest form, each team is trying to make the other team make as many mistakes as possible. And, those are that's basically the goal of every game. But what I like to bring in is get rid of that negative stigma of, hey, I've made a mistake. I'm going to get pulled out of the bench. I'm going to get sat down. I want to get rid of that. Like, in practice, we go hard. Like, it as a coach. You want to make your practices harder, twice as hard as a game is, so that when you do get in a game, it's easy. I want to get rid of that stigma of our kids thinking, I made a mistake, so they get down on themselves, and they dwell on it and it sticks with them the whole game. I think our kids, like, this year's team is doing a really good job of, like, last year we had a lot of injuries with our varsity team, and it was really hard to keep them focused and playing with a lot of effort in game, just knowing that, hey, this guy's not here, this guy's not here. But I think they did a good job. We gave ourselves a chance. Hit a really tough Thermopolis team last year, shorthanded, but the focus that I have this year, like we said, we started off this year really strong. So my biggest goal every year is to help kids handle the adversities they're going to see and deal with the mistakes that they make, and not make it like a negative thing, more like a positive thing. It's like, okay, I messed up, but we're gonna get back up and keep trying harder. That's kind of been my main focus the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, is getting rid of that. I did this wrong, I'm not a good basketball player. Oh, no, you did it wrong because you were trying, and you're becoming a better basketball player. You're becoming a good basketball player. So, and I think the kids have really latched onto that for me.
Yeah, I get this past weekend. We couldn't finish in that fourth quarter, and the girls, of course, were wanting to win every single game, and we met some pretty tough, really good teams, and the Ton River game, everybody was excited looking for that game. But in the locker room, I'm telling the girls, this is probably a good thing for us. I mean, I was really proud of you guys, and there's a lot of things we need to work on, and we're just not where we should be condition wise. I mean, we've got to finish that fourth quarter and finish it out, because we lost those games pretty much in the last second half of the fourth quarter. So just trying to build up their confidence. It's like a lot of kids were hanging their heads, and you're trying to and our assistant coaches are really good. I mean, they'll at the beginning of the game, they'll say, can you make sure you tell them this, and so I have a new assistant coach, Sienna. She was one of my players, Sienna Estorga, so she'll just make sure that they're keeping their heads up and making them help their team out, and so it's been nice. In previous years I had a lot of good assistant coaches. Al Seabury, he was with me for a long time, and Josephine Bell and Tawny Robinson came in, and Levita White, she helped me. So they've all had a really big influence on taking stuff from them and learning new things, and so it's been you just try to give them those chances to get better.
And I've got to imagine you have to build a family, with your team, to kind of help them block the outside noise out, and that they can rely on you guys and their teammates to, we're going through this together. Yeah. And I imagine that's really difficult at times, but I'd imagine that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I think every coach knows that culture is big. That togetherness, that family mentality is really big, especially when it comes to challenges that you're going to face, the adversities you're going to see, whether it be officiating, whether it be the crowd of the opposing team, whether it be the talent of another team, and, or the funky schemes some coaches throw at you, because we see a lot of it with what we have. And I think our Aleta and her staff and me and my staff and all the staff that I've had before us, we've done a really good job of making sure our focus is on the kids. Early in my career, I was big on winning every game and, trying to go undefeated, and that big old banner of that 50-game winning streak sitting over there on top of me, trying to reach that level that Alfred was. And I think over the years I've learned, it doesn't matter how many games you win in a regular season. You got to win the 3 at regionals. You got to win the 3 at state, and that's where my focus has really gone from. So, the kids really get upset if they can't win every game. But I think we as coaches, and Aleta and her staff and me and my staff, are doing a really good job of redirecting those energies into, okay, we can't be perfect every night, but we're going to play hard, and we're going to play strong, and most importantly, we're going to try to play together. And that's what, as you as a coach know, you got to build that up throughout the season, and that's the direction you want. I like the term herding cats. all these kids are all over the place at the beginning of the season, and your job is to get them all going in that same direction by regionals and state.
Sometimes herding cats is easier.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And then what really excuse me, what really helps is like our younger teams help. Like our coaches prepare them for when we have them. Just like my JV teams have been so successful. I mean, yesterday, Jasmine Bostrin, who is our new JV girls coach, she moved up from being a freshman after Levita left us this past year, and Levita had an amazing record. I mean, I don't think she lost maybe one game, pretty much every the year she was coaching, and Jasmine has stepped right in, and she won all her games this past weekend. So that really, that really prepares up. She's preparing some of them girls to eventually come play. I had a lot of injuries this weekend. One of my starting guards went down with 1 minute in the Ton River game, which was a really
first minute of the game.
The first minute of the game, and she started for me last year and started this year, and we're just praying and hoping she's fine. But I had to pull up one of the JV girls, and she came in and she played a lot of varsity minutes for us. So, it really helps when you have, because they do a good job with them, and they know what we want, and because they've been through our programs. I mean, one of his coaches played for him, and both of my assistants both played for me this year. So they know the expectations.
Yeah. And we've always had strong, like Elise said, I've always had strong JV coaches too. With when I was coaching with my brother, Michael Highwalker, he really got the kids ready for me, and it was always one of those things, and as a coach too, the varsity kid goes down, you got to move that JV kid up, and they got to be ready to go. Like the varsity is intense, it's fast, it's it's physical, and Chris Lopez, he's stepping in his first year as a JV coach for us, and he did a really good job with his guys this weekend too. They went 4-0, won pretty big all weekend, and I only suited up 10 varsity guys, and one of my guys went down with he got a big Charlie horse, not in the game. Before the game, I don't know what they were doing. I don't know. The story I was told, I don't know how honest that is, but he tried to play that first game and just couldn't move. So I went to Coach Lopez, and I was like, "Who you got? Who's ready?" And he gave me a kid, and so all I need the kid to do is hit the open three and play some defense. And he stepped in, got him in a couple games, and this weekend, and he hit the open shot and he played defense. So, like I said, we've always had. I feel like our coaching staffs are strong in developing, and they have to be with the numbers we're dealing with. They have to be, and we really appreciate what they're doing and how they're following us, and hopefully they're learning from us, because we're not going to be here forever. So we want to make sure we're leaving this program in good hands. Like Alfred, that was like my biggest thing that was some really big shoes for me to fill with Alfred Redman, but I feel like I've done an okay job, of carrying on the program and tradition, and I feel pretty confident with who we have in our school district and who we have following up with us is going to do a good job for us too. Once I decide I've had enough.
Well, those are going to be huge shoes to fill for both of you guys if that day ever comes. But shifting gears just a little bit, I have the absolute honor of coaching kids that come off the reservation as well, and I think a lot of the communities that we travel to, their first and maybe only introduction to the reservation is through those kids coming to the games and playing. What would you say some of the misconceptions are of people on the outside that they might have of the reservation? And do you do things, you kind of alluded to it, just how we represent ourselves when we go places, but what do you do to kind of give them a window into your world?
Well, a lot of times they have those misconceptions, and we tell them, we let our players know, they're going to think that this is how they all act, and we're like, no, we're going to provide that, let them see how we really are. I mean, if they have just playing some, they develop friendships from other schools because they played them for 3-4 years, and then they get to know each other and follow each other on social media and things like that.
I think social media is a big thing with today's kids nowadays. I know a lot of our, like, we got a really good relationship with Wright. We've competed with them the last 3-4 years. And a lot of their kids know our kids, and they all follow each other on Snapchat, Instagram, and all that stuff. So I think that kind of opens up another window for some of these non-native communities to see, our kids and what we're in. There's a lot of similarities. They're dealing with some of the same stuff that our kids are dealing with and stuff. And you see things and hear things in the news and on TV and in movies and stuff about the reservation and stuff. And yeah, we're dealing with things, but every other community in this state of Wyoming is dealing with stuff too, and it's pretty similar. I think the relationships between our school and other schools, we have rivalries. It seems like everybody's a rival with us, from Pavilion to, the old rivalry with Lovell and Rocky Mountain and all that stuff. So, but, these kids are battling against each other in games, and then afterwards they're high-fiving and giving hugs and, talking to each other. And I know they're interacting with each other on social media and stuff too. So, it's really changed from when I played back in the 90s. It was like, nope, I do not like that guy. I'm never going to like that guy. But I want to share a story. Like, when I played here, our biggest rival was Lovell, Wyoming. And they had a player called Craig Lumberg, and that's who I went. He's the same age as me, same grade. We went back and forth with each other for 4 years, and, just had that mentality of that's my competition. Well, after we graduated high school, went off to school, played, I decided to go to Idaho for a independent tournament, and guess who I run into playing in the same independent tournament? 12 years later, Craig Lumberg, and we've been friends ever since. He was coaching at level, talking back and forth, kind of helping each other out with situations that we were dealing with and stuff. So I think the sport, the competition of the sport brings kids together, and then it creates this bond and friendship that can last even a lifetime afterwards.
100%. Yeah, there really is so many more things that we have in common than we have different, and I think that's where our kids thrive. And I have, the unique fortune of having a very diverse group, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And and you're exactly right. There's great people. There's great families, that are all, moving in the right direction and things like that. This is a beautiful area, and so I love taking our kids around the state, and they're so prideful of their culture, and they'll wear their beaded medallions, and I love everything about it. But maybe talk a little bit about just how prideful your kids are. And
So this school was built on that. I mean, we had all our grandparents and our parents, like my grandparents, and that was their dream, to have a school for our kids, so that they could learn their language and their culture, and it's happening. I mean, we call it indigenize, or everything we do, we have to include our culture, and be prideful of that. And they are, because, and it makes, it brings them confidence, and they're able to, express themselves. We have a lot of people on our team that are, they dance in a traditional powwow, or, just, they bring all that, energy to our teams, and we depend on a lot of our elders to come in and visit and talk with our players, and provide and Chico Hermenihorses, who coaches who used to coach cross country, always provided that I guess that motivation for our kids, and said, your ancestors, they struggled. I mean, he brings up old war stories about Little Big Horn and this and that, and says, they suffered for you, and you just have to go out and run a 25-minute, 20-minute race, and then that's nothing compared to what they had to do. And we always bring that in, and like I said, we tell our kids, you're representing us. We want people to look at us like how you really are. I mean, we get so many compliments out in the hotels we stay, going in restaurants, and it really, makes me proud, because they'll say, your kids are really, real well behaved, and we really, and they're so beautiful.
Yes.
And one of the things, like, kids, you guys, we were all young once, when we're in junior high, we're trying to figure out who we are, trying to figure out what kind of person we're becoming and stuff, and that carries on into high school. And I think our school does a really good job of helping our kids find that, remember that identity of the, where they come from, their ancestors, their history, the cultural aspects of everything. And as you can see in our gym, we do a lot of our traditional designs and geometric stuff, and we have on our wall a mural that was on our old gym at the Alfred Redman. We wanted to bring that up here to carry it out here. And if you look into our jerseys, we do a lot of we have a black set of away jerseys that have our chief's name in Arapaho, and we probably should start including Shoshone and a few other cultures and stuff that we have. But that's a big part of bringing that sense of pride for our school and for our community, for our kids, is like letting them know, yes, it's it's a good thing that you're a Native American. It's a good thing that you're Arapaho, you're Shoshone, you're from all these other Native American cultures and identities and stuff. And one of the things that I tried to do a few years ago, you wouldn't know how hard it is to get a flag from different tribes, because one of the things we wanted to hang up is in our gym is the tribal flags of all the kids that have played for Wyoming Indian, and show that for them and give that opportunity to see, like, yes, I'm represented along with everything else. So, and I try to wear the beaded ropes and stuff and make the kids feel, and I don't know, you probably agree with me on this, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. And that's kind of one of the things why we really too emphasize making sure we got our uniforms are clean and are, have a representation of our kids and our community, and bringing that sense of pride and enjoyment for I'm starting to ramble. I'm sorry, but
no, you're fine.
Yeah, it's just really, that's one of the things I love doing is I do a lot of our designs for our fans, and we call it our Chiefs gear every year, and I love seeing all our Chiefs shirts and stuff in the crowd, and our fans and parents and community wearing those around throughout the year, and it makes our kids play that much harder when they see that many people in the crowd with their numbers and with their family T-shirts, because a lot of the parents now get their kids' pictures on their shirts, and it's like, it's I love it. I love every bit of it.
I get those shirts too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he does a really good job with the designs, and there's one design that one of our she works down at the middle school. Jenny runs close to Lodge. She mentioned to me, where they found this design, and she told me that story behind it. But they found it on a beaded dress, and that same design. And so I showed it to him, and I said, "Can you make this design?" So he put it together for me, and so it's been we always maybe bring it out every couple of years, and added it on this year's some of our stuff, and even on our uniforms we try to put that design on.
We're gonna have to get some cheap shirts.
Yeah. Shirtsmore does a really good job with their online store, so I'll send you guys the link.
And I kind of wanted to acknowledge, we have a lot of, it's like you said, to do all this, it takes a lot of financial, you need that support. So, our school board is really good about, trying to help us as much as they can. And I want to give a shout out to our business council always does what they can to help us and this, because they understand, they see what we're doing and they want to support that. So, we get a lot of, we have to solicit, we have to fundraise. I and him pretty much spend all summer in here raising, trying to raise money and have all these tournaments, tiny tot tournaments, adult tournaments. And one good thing about our summers is every year we hold our annual Chiefs Nation youth basketball camp, and we have our players are the
They're the coaches.
They're the coaches, and it's fun
They're the
to
ones
watch
running the
them.
drills, and
And it's fun to watch them because you see that they learn some stuff from you, and they're giving it back to those little kids who just really look up to them, and so it's a real fun time.
Yeah. And we got to mention our rec board too here at the school.
Yeah,
they do
our
a
rec
lot of
board,
they do help us out a lot, and I really want to help. Reach out to our business council and stuff, and the Winter Casino. They we kind of are. We don't have we don't really live in a town. Lander has a lot of businesses and stuff that they can go to help booster clubs and stuff like that. So they step up big time for us, and we really appreciate everything that they've given us.
And another one is Cody Beers,
Cody Beers
from
at
Whiteout.
Whiteout,
He's one of our biggest supporters, and he's always helped us, as much as he can, and he broadcasts all our games, and was really good for our fans, because that especially during COVID, I mean, they couldn't even walk in the gym; it just had to be the players, so everybody was just waiting for him to broadcast.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I this is a little bit of an aside, but when I was probably a 5th or 6th grader, I grew up in Idaho, and my first introduction to just the style of basketball was through Lapway, and they came down and we had, I think our high school team was undefeated at that time, and they had very similar colors to the Chiefs, and they walked in the gym, and they had these two brothers, the Dumbo brothers, Ty, and I can't even remember what his name was, but they were flying up and down the floor, dunking, shooting threes, and it was, I mean, I remember where I was sitting in that gym watching them and just the impact that had on me. And so I think what you all are doing as far as just how you represent yourself when you go places, I think it makes a bigger impact than you really know, and it's just great for people to experience that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Basketball in Indian country is big. I mean, there is a lot of tournaments out there, like huge tournaments, and I and him take our teams. One of our teams to the Mesa, which is, and in fact I wore that T-shirt today. It's the national.
They call it the National Native American Basketball Tournament.
And Nabi, right?
No,
yeah.
no. There's
no,
Nabi.
there's Nabi.
And then this one's through the tribe. They call themselves the tribe. But this past summer.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Mesa.
In Mesa, Arizona. I think this past summer. There's from youth all the way up to 12th grade. I think they said they had 270 teams.
Yeah.
All in that Mesa sports complex. And
I had was it 18 courts?
Yeah, 18 courts. And
yeah.
So it's big everywhere.
It's big everywhere, and it, I think we're not the only school that's providing that. I mean, there's a lot of players that are playing Division I. I mean, Native American players that never were recognized, and this past month we were watching, well, not this past month, but a couple of weeks ago, that her name is Sydney Benally. She plays for BYU, but we had to play against her last summer at that same tournament, and our girls were like, we don't want to play her. And they're like, did you know she's a five-star athlete? We don't know if we want to play her. And she's really good, and they beat us pretty bad.
She's pretty legit, that's for sure.
I was a Wisconsin fan probably 10 years ago when Bronson Koenig was playing, and I think he was Ho-Chunk in Minnesota, I think is where he came from, and I remember just following his story and how impactful that was for him to give back to his community, and he still is today. And, so and talk a little bit about that. Both of you guys are involved in in education in some form or fashion. I know, what does that look like, to get your kids motivated to, make sure that they're taking care of what they need to in class, and that it's not just a benefit here to be able to be a part of the Teach program, but also, taking that education and probably empowering them, but also bringing it back to the reservation and empowering others.
Well, I want to say this. Our athletes, I know they talk about the dropout rate on the reservation and stuff like that, but our athletes are graduating. Like our athletes, our school has a lot of policies that help, reinforce the school aspect of it, the eligibility list, the attendance and stuff like that. I think our athletes kind of benefit from that the most, and the kids that play for us, they're graduating. We have a really strict weekly eligibility policy where all of our kids have to be passing all their core classes, the math, the sciences, the Englishes, the language arts and stuff. And, because of that, they're keeping caught up during their sports seasons, and it's allowing them to graduate, and some of our kids are able to graduate a semester early if they wanted to. We're glad they don't, because if they do, they can't finish off the season. But where I think that's kind of one of the misconceptions too, of some of these native kids only come during basketball season.
It's
but,
easy.
Yeah, and they're getting these easy grades and stuff. But no, it's a stress as a coach to okay, who's on the list this week?
Yeah,
who's behind?
it's very stressful.
Who's got to get worked off? But our kids do a really good job of one of the things I always preach to them is it's easier to stay caught up than it is to get caught up. So, once our kids come into this second semester this year, they do a really good job of making sure they're on top of their classes and stuff. So,
and see, I and Craig are products of Wyoming Indian High School, and we always have that misconception. People are like, well, I'm going to go take my kid off the reservation to get a better education. And my daughter, she's a perfect example. She's was one of the first Northern Arapaho women to receive an architectural engineering degree. And she ran cross country for University of Wyoming. But our kids are capable. I mean, all my players, a lot of them have gone to college and there's a really strong woman out there that are administrators, they're teachers, they're doctors or nurses. I mean, our school has provided that opportunity for them. And, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, we have doctors, pharmacists, engineers, councilmen, leaders, community leaders. They're running programs and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're running, I really hate that going off to get a better education. I always tease around with some of our teachers, where do you think our teachers come from here at Wyoming Indian? We got teachers from Lander, we got teachers from Riverton, we got teachers from Pavilion. We're all from the same areas. Lander has the same kind of teachers that we do. Riverton has the same kind of teachers as we do. So, it's not what the teachers are giving you, it's what you're getting from them. And I think our kids do a really good job of, focusing on that. Like any other kid, they're focusing lots of distractions, cell phones, social media and stuff like that. But I'm sure you deal with it as a coach too. And,
For sure.
And our kids set goals. I mean, they have goals, and I'm really proud of one team. They were the three-peat team. I mean, and they, most of those girls played varsity for me as freshmen, but they were really good students academically. They were on a National Honor Society, and some of them are playing their last year of eligibility in college right now. But they had goals set, and then that COVID hit us, and the reservation shut down, and they were like, "Nope, you're not. There's no sports." And some of them girls were on their first cross-country state championship team from the year before, so they didn't get the chance to repeat that, and they probably would have won that. Julie Hermanny Horses was coaching them at that time, and it was heartbreaking for our kids. And we couldn't even get in a gym. There was no gyms. I mean, not everything was shut down. We couldn't get in Blue Sky. They couldn't get in here. It was just, and that's what really hurt our kids. And but those girls pulled themselves together, and they're like, nope, we're gonna do the best we can to get that 3P. And they went to our tribal council and they had a proposal for them. And I was real proud of them because they did it themselves. And they're like, all we need is that chance. All we need is that chance. And we're going to win it if we do have that chance. And they did. And they went down there and they told them, this is what we're going to do. You know, they had this outline of they were going to wear masks during the game and they were going to, you know, keep a social distance and all this stuff. And I just didn't think it was going to fly there for a while. And every meet and him were stressing out because it came, everybody started the same time, the whole state. We're the only school, well, at the reservation school.
We only had 8 games that year.
Yeah. Well, 11. Well, counting state.
Counting state, yeah.
So we started January 28th. I always remember that game, our first practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, January 28th. And our girls were like, nope, we're going to win this. And we were at least be able to play some of our conference games. And when we lost to Level in one of them. But it was really strange how they kept in contact with each other through phones, texts, and they were like, we have to stay on top of our academics. We have to. And so, you know, they had to do everything online. And then when we went to hybrid, I mean, you know, they did everything they can. That they were like, you know, they did it themselves.
Yeah, they gave themselves that opportunity.
Yeah, and they were a really, really, you know, I'm really proud of that group. You know, and they just did everything themselves, and they were right. They came in here. They won their conference. They won the regional tournament. They won their state. And I had coaches that were visiting with me, and they're like, "You guys had to be practicing. You had to be." And I'm like, "Nope." And it was really funny that first week of practice. Our kids were just like awkward because they had never. You know, they had never seen each other for that long.
Yeah, because it shut down. Like, we were lucky enough because I remember Lander had a really good chance of winning the state tournament that year.
Yeah.
And they shut down. Like, I think their girls played one game and then the tournament was done.
Yeah, we were right past Shoshone, and we were number one.
So it was really a fun year. I mean, not fun, but it was a really emotional year for everybody, just because we lost a lot of elders, and that was one reason they shut the everything down. But our girls, and it was really funny because they practice every day with a mask, played every game with a mask, and then championship games they were like, well, we're going to take them off.
Yeah, we had the colored masks, and I'll definitely keep that as a souvenir, because it's going to be something that we'll be telling people for a long time. Like, can you imagine that? This is what we did. I mean, and we wore masks for the entire practice, and in games there for a while. Luckily, they changed that right at the end. But yeah, pretty wild. Well, and just to your point, that just shows how resilient your kids are, and that they, if they wanted something bad enough, they did it together. Well, good. Well, I just really appreciate your guys' time this morning. We'll wrap up, just allow you guys to kind of talk about your teams this year and what you're kind of excited about looking forward. Just giving you an opportunity to talk about this 25-26 version of the Chiefs and Lady Chiefs.
I got a big senior group this year. These guys have been playing with each other since the 5th grade. I'm really excited. Like I said, we had a really successful. We started off the season really strong. They're locked in, focused. This is and one of the biggest things is my son's senior year. He's played for me for 4 years. Played varsity. Started the last few years for me. Like I said, we had some injuries last year that made them step up. And honestly, I think it's benefiting us now because we had a lot of players that. You've seen players where you got your star player and everybody else kind of plays behind him. Well, when Cordell went down with his knee, it required a lot of my other guys to say, oh, this is on me now. And I think we're benefiting from that this year because, Adriana Brown has really come out of his shell. We got my son Pauline, he's another one that had to really step up and be a scorer for us. And Hyanito Monroe Black, that boy's just got an engine in him, man. Like he's just nonstop. Like, when I take him out, he's does not want to come out. And I try to get him some breathers early in the game because I know if I take him out late, he's going to get mad at me. But, and then picking up Julius Robinson, he played for you his freshman year.
Yeah, both those boys did.
Yeah. And then they came out here, and having Julius this year, along with, LaDainian Brown and a lot of our younger guys, Jordan Black, Damon Willow, stepping in. Last year we weren't so deep on our bench, but this year I got 10 guys that can play, and it makes a world of a difference. But last year, like I said, going through injuries and that adversity, I think it's helped us grow into this year. So we just got a guy. Our guys are focused. They're playing together. They understand each other, and one of the biggest things I love is and every time out I always ask coaches, anything else you want to say? But I got players now. It's like, hey, coach, this is what's happening. This is what I'm seeing. We gotta make sure we're doing this. And it's like, okay, like I'm being spoiled right now. I'm very spoiled with like the basketball IQ of some of our guys, and they're really good leaders, and hopefully they can pull along our younger guys so that when they graduate, our program's going to be in good hands. So I got lots of high hopes for us, and we probably won't win every game this year, but we're gonna try to improve every game and challenge each other and get each other ready for February and March. So
should be fun to watch.
Yeah, it was this weekend, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I have, like he said, it's real. Because I was at a lot of points with him where he had seniors that played for you for a lot. You almost don't have to coach that much because they already know these things, and so that's really helpful for him. And I've got a rule. I have the majority of my team back from last year. We really need to pull together this year. Our main emphasis is we're going to love one another. We're going to have better chemistry than we had last year, and that's something that we need to get. We need in order to finish strong this season. We made it to state championship last year, and we just want to try to build on that. And it was good. And I told the girls in the locker room, I said, it was good for us to lose these because it doesn't matter now to lose. What matters is how we finish, and we've got to keep working harder to get to that point. And we lost those games right at the end of the two games that we did lose. We lost late in the fourth quarter, so we just need to finish strong. And I have two senior starters, Taya Dixie, and she played for me as a freshman, and Jamie Shoyer-Fair, she came from Lander as a junior last year, so she's helped us out a lot too. And so we have a younger freshman sophomore team players that are going to really help us down this season. Paisley Blackburn is my point guard, and she she started as a freshman last year for me for a point guard, and she's really has helped us. And so I'm looking. We have a lot of really strong post people this year. We really can get have a really good half court game. And I always tease them. I'm like, we've got to develop that stamina to be able to play a press like I used to play it. But now we have to focus now more on that half court game and utilize those big strong post people. And they had some really good moments this weekend. And so I look for us to finish strong. So, the talent is really out there this year for us, which is good for us. We like that competition. And me and Craig are always telling our 80s, get us some threes goals, get us into those tournaments because that's going to make us better.
We love the physicality of that. The bigger schools, they come out and
aggressive.
They play us hard. They play us physical, and that's what postseason basketball is. So we're always trying to get games with the big play up. Just because we know that they're going to push us, they're going to show us our weaknesses, so that we can get those things fixed.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, is there anything you guys wanted to say or finish with? Otherwise, we're pretty much wrapped up here. So I just wanted to say thank you to both of you, but give you the opportunity if there's anything else that you wanted to say.
I just want to thank all of our fans and everybody that supports us. Like, my wife's from New Zealand. We got Chiefs Nation shirts in Australia, New Zealand. I know there's been some in Canada. We got stuff everywhere, and we the support we get from them and our family. But I want to thank all the people like off our reservation in our communities, because there's people that come up to us after games and like, the only time I come watch basketball is when Wyoming Indians in town. And we just want to tell those people we appreciate all that support. We appreciate you showing our kids love and stuff like that. They really enjoy it. They really enjoy getting talked to. So don't be shy. Our kids are shy. They might say a few words to you, but they love it when people outside of our community come up and talk to them, visit with them, and tell them how well they're doing and stuff like that. But most of all, people in our community. Cody Beard was telling us last night on their Wyo Today podcast, I think they had over 2,500 views on our games alone, and it's like 10 times more than they've ever had on any of their other videos. So we appreciate Cody and the Wyo Today crew and the radio crews for doing that. And I know I'm forgetting people that I want to thank. So if I forget you, I'm sorry. There's just so many of you out there that really
I think part of it is their families. I mean, their families really make sure that those kids are getting to bed, eating right, all this stuff, and they follow them. I mean, a lot of times like the tournament in Riverton, a lot of teams mentioned to me, well, it's just like you're playing in your home court because you have that following. I'm like, nope, you put the tournament somewhere else, we're still going to have that following. We have that big family support for them.
Yeah. And the last people I want to thank is the families of our kids, the parents, for trusting us with their kids, taking them on these long trips. Sometimes we're spending 2 nights in a hotel and stuff. Thank you for trusting us and making sure your kids are safe. They are safe. Trust us. They will be safe. So
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for
thank
hopping
you guys
on
for
with
coming.
us. And hopefully this isn't the last time we have you guys on the podcast. But until then, thank you.
yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it.